What's up everyone, it's Avatar Clash, and today we are going to talk about my tournament report. And based on the title, I won! I won my first tournament ever. Well, my first tournament win ever. Like, I just received it. Like, when I knocked out the final Pokemon, I literally almost cried. If I wasn't in public, I would have cried. But the point that I'm trying to make is that I won a tournament, fulfilled the 2K subscriber challenge with my least favorite deck, Gardy, and I'm going to talk about the tournament report. So basically, I was at a cosplay convention, and they were hosting a tournament, like my local game store was hosting a tournament there, and I'm like, you know what, sign me up, and then turns out I was one of the few spots remaining, so I'm like, yay, I got in. And then after shopping around for a bit, getting some cards that I really was like, I can't leave home without it, I was just like, you know what, I'll go back upstairs. So turns out we started a little bit earlier than anticipated, because it was supposed to be best of one, like best of one, and if you're like out, you're out. So it ended up being best 2 out of 3. Whoever won 2 out of 3 wins the whole match. And I'm like, you know what, this will be awesome. It will just be like being at a regional, because I heard that the regionals are best 2 out of 3. So it's like, you know what, let's try it, let's see, let's test the skills out. And I'm not gonna lie, I was nervous with Gardy, but one of the guys offered a practice match beforehand. But with all that said, I wanted to get started on this. So basically, my first match was against Lugia. I was just like, this is the deck. That was probably the deck I was the most afraid of, because even with using the decks that I really like Raging Bull or like the Charizard, it's so hard to defeat a Lugia for me. At least for me. Maybe I just am not really good with navigating those matchups. But essentially, I was like, you know what, just get Temple of Sinnoh down as soon as possible. Try to knock out Minchinos. Try to get Archeopses. And so, basically, game 1 I went first, and I was doing a really good job navigating the situation until they knocked out my one and only Gardy. So it was kind of hard to get another Gardy. Like, I could never come back from that. And like another misplay I did while doing like the little Miracle Force, Adrenabrain, this, that, and the other, it was more like, oh my gosh, I messed this up, because I was thinking they could Teal Mask Ogerpon me, meaning like using the torrential pump and then knocking out a single prizer and all that. So I was just like, I don't want them to knock out my Kirlia, so I'm just gonna bench Manaphy down. But I, like, thinking back on it, that was a mistake. So the opponent won game 1, and then game 2 I decided to go first again, because Lugia likes going first. So the more I can set up and get everything down, the better my chances of winning would be. So I did that. I ended up getting 3 Ralts down the first turn, because I'm like, I want a Kirlia, refinement the second turn. But turns out they Iono me, and I'm like, yay. I was so, like, it's not their fault, but I was so salty about that. So, but yeah, I was so salty about it. And then I'm like looking at my new hand, I'm like, oh, this is better than my original hand. Never mind. So what I was thinking was, okay, I could get Kirlia, and then Iono him back. And then turns out I did get what I wanted. Like, I wasn't gonna TM Evo, because I want them to get 1 prize, not 2. And knowing that their board state was bad, like they couldn't really get Archeops down. I'm talking about game 2 now. Like, they couldn't really discard an Archeops. It was just like, you know what, I will take whatever I can get. So I end my turn just focusing on getting Kirlias and getting like more bench support, and thinking about, okay, what single prizer will I attack with? Will I attack with Screamtail? Will I even have to attack the one Archeops with Gardy? So that's what I was thinking the entire time. And then my opponent just knocks out a single prizer. I think it was just a random Kirlia. Yeah, it was a random Kirlia. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna just counter catcher, attack with Guardy. Yeah. Counter catcher, Guardy. Counter catcher Archeops, because that's the one Archeops. Hit Miracle Force. And then that's when it was starting to go bad for my opponent, because my opponent ended up using one of their only Luminions for the Legacy Energy, so they Aqua Return, knock out my Kirlia before I did my Miracle Force counter catcher play. So that was pretty interesting. My opponent was clearly bricking, so I was just like thinking, you know what? I am essentially good the entire game, because I think what I ended up doing was bossing up Luminion, hit with Guardy, and then after that my opponent just scoops, because you would just have to attach manually after the Archeops is out. So she won game 1, I won game 2, and then we really did not have enough time to go for a game 3, which is very unfortunate. But at the same time, I was just like, I don't know what to do. And so we asked the judge, hey, what do you want us to do? Should we actually go on with game 3? It's like, okay, we have no time, so let's just go to sudden death. And then I'm preparing as normal. I don't even know who was going first or going second, but either way, since my deck is slower, I was gonna lose, because Lugia can literally attack turn 2 if they had the ideal setup. And it was scary, because as we were going with sudden death, she did have the ideal setup, getting 2 Archeops in discard pile. Every Lugia player's dream, right? And then I didn't notice it, but the judge did. I was just so focused on playing the game. I'm like, okay, set up, and then play to with my best. And as it was my turn, the guy was just like, hey, you have no prize cards down, so it goes to her, meaning me. And I'm like, well, that's plot armor. So I win that match, and then the next matchup was Archaladon. I felt like I could navigate that more due to the fact that I tested it on live a lot. Like, a lot of decks on the ladder were like Archaladon. So I kind of had an inkling of what to do. But I did not anticipate the amount of jamming towers. I was just thinking, okay, they just play 1. No, my opponent played 2. And game 1 was pretty miserable, because I bricked. And without Ionoing, I would have not been able to get, some Ralts down. So having Iono on my end kind of saved me, in a sense. It saved me. And it was just a little weird, because I was just like, I just didn't like it. I just didn't like the fact that I couldn't get the Kirlia set up. So it took me literally 3-4 turns just to get Guardy. So I bounced back, because my opponent literally only had 1 on Archaladon. So that was good for me. And my opponent kept on putting down easy 2 prize knockouts for me to hit with Screamtail. So my opponent had Jamming Tower, but I was like, I'm not going to use Drifloon. I'm not going to focus on Archaladon. I just want to hit with Screamtail. So I was just like, hit with Screamtail. Do Psychic Embrace. Hit with Screamtail. Just do a little bit of damage at a time. A little bit of chip damage at a time to the Archaladon. Yes, did I have to Munkidori the Mind Bend? Game 1? Yeah, but overall it became so much more smoother. And so I just used Screamtail, not even needing Bravery Charm due to the Jamming Tower. That's part of the reason why I was thinking, okay, use Screamtail instead of Drifloon if I don't have another stadium. So I'm like, okay, Screamtail, hit the Squawk. Hit Squawk on the bench. And then Screamtail, counter catcher something like a Greninja, because I noticed that my opponent did not play Rescue Board, and then Disrupt. Hit something else on the bench, my opponent played Luminion, so it would be Psychic Embrace, Guardy, Retreat, Adrenal Brain to Luminion, hit the 80 from Screamtail, and then repeat, even in game 2. That was the repeat. Disrupt, Screamtail, hit. Disrupt, Screamtail, hits. So my opponent like, it was really hard. The main thing I was afraid of was, like, a sword in Dialga, but going through the entire deck, because game 1 was very extensive, going through the entire deck there was no Dialga, so game 2 I was like, you know what, there's no Dialga unless I'm being joked around with, but overall it was pretty great. It was a pretty simple matchup compared to the Lugia, and then game 3 I was actually against the practice guy. I was actually against the guy that I had a practice match with to help me get rid of the tournament nerves, and he plays Roaring Moon, and I'm like, I hate my life right now. Like, I'm a psychic deck, and practically Roaring Moon knocks out everything, like legit everything. So I'm like, you know what, I'm not gonna play a stadium unless I absolutely have to, meaning, like, if I use the, like, my opponent plays a Pokestop, so there's inevitably not, like, the stadium is gonna be there 9 times out of 10, but with the, like, if I could use my Artazon to get my Drifloon or my Scream Tail or whatever, I'll use it. I will use it. And so that's exactly what I did. I basically repeated the Archaludon match. I was just like, okay, I just need to get Scream Tail, hit the Squawk, get my Scream Tail, Adrenabrain from Guardy to the Pecharunt, because my opponent played Pecharunt. So I just used Scream Tail for that, getting 2 prizes left. And then good thing about Roaring Moon is little to, like, they don't really play Iono. I really did notice that. I was, like, literally scared to be hand disrupted and if my hard work will not pay off. And then, nope, no hand disruption. Flip the Script didn't help them, and their counter catchers kind of worked against them, except for one Guardy, but I just got the Guardy back, so it was not a big deal. It was fine. Like, I was okay. And so game 1 ended up being Scream Tail being the MVP with the last minute Drifloon play, and then game 2 sort of similar. So my opponent won second this time, and I was just like, okay, I just need to get Scream Tail again and get Guardy set up as much as possible. So what happened was that since I won first, I couldn't really get set up. I mean, it's not the end of the world if I don't set up immediately, but at the same time, I want to get some Ralts and Kirlias in play. So essentially what happened was that I literally had, like, Kirlia, Ralts, and then another thing, and then what I did was whatever, I think it was a Manaphy in my active, if I remember correctly. So a Manaphy was in my active. I used the Evo. Like, I could have easily evolved my Kirlia into Gardevoir, but I didn't want to, like, give my opponent the advantage of taking the first 2 prize knockout. So I was just like, you know what? I'll just go this as slow as I can. Hope that he doesn't get to boss up one of my Kirlias, because I really do need a Guardy. I really do need Kirlia. And then turns out all he could really do was use Baby Roaring Moon and knock out whatever was in my active. So that wasn't a huge concern. So what happened was he's like, you know what? Same thing with game 1, same thing with my Archaludon match. I recycle Scream Tail, put it on, and then get 8, press it, put it up, Adrenabrain to, like, the Pheasantipity, press Bravery Charm, like, attach Bravery Charm, hit Pheasantipity, but not beforehand disrupting them. Like, you always try to do your best to get your unfair stamp them, and then knock out Pheasantipity. That was my game plan the entire time. Okay, it was like, okay, how do I knock out Pheasantipity in no time? I mean, did I want the counter catcher? Yes, but at the same time, I'm like, I gotta knock out. I don't care if they have a lost vacuum. I will knock out Pheasantipity if I have to. So essentially, I knocked out Pheasantipity game 2 first, and then they knock out something, like, no wait, they just knock out my Scream Tail. I used my second Night Stretcher, just Adrenabrain, like just do the Psychic Embrace, Adrenabrain, whatever. I did the Psychic Embrace, Adrenabrain, hit the, no, yeah, Psychic Embrace, Adrenabrain, because they had Munkidori down at that point, because my opponent plays a Munkidori in Roaring Moon. So that was the idea. So basically just do 2, so 40, so Adrenabrain, whatever I retreated, Psychic Embrace retreat, hit Adrenabrain, and then go for Munkidori knockout. So, because I noticed my opponent also did not play much recovery, so I used that to my advantage as well. And then after no Munkidori, it was literally just recycle Scream Tail, hit Petrarunt for another 2 prizes, and then the final prize ended up being, like, I have 2 Guardies set up. My opponent just knocked out Scream Tail, and it's like Psychic Embrace, Adrenabrain to active Roaring Moon, and then hit for the KO, giving me my first tournament win ever. Oh my gosh. You have no idea how good it felt. And I almost cried. And my stomach is still in knots. So hopefully you enjoyed that quick tournament report. I really hope that if you want to be a Guardy player, this list is helpful. You could use Henry Chow's list as well. I mean, he is the all-time great Guardy player. But yeah, this list in the forefront, the background, is dubbed my Guardy for Dummies list, meaning me, I'm the dummy. So there you go. Here's the list if you want to check it out. And I really hope you really enjoy this video. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for watching. And please like and subscribe. Consider joining my memberships. And I will see you soon for more fun. Thank you.